Harvey, I assume.
It's Harvey. Hi.
Okay. Okay, we'll go getting underway. Excuse me. We're on Kaf Nun Daled, Amud Aleph, top of the Amud, and we'll go as far as we can for today. For Monday, for the Siyum, I'll do the Shiur as normal, but I won't finish the whole Gemara, so that we'll have a little bit left over to do at the Siyum itself. Okay? So our Gemara, remember, was dealing with this issue of Mechamer, one who directs, who guides, or drives a donkey. And remember, they used to do that sometimes from behind with a goad, a long pole, like for an ox as well, or otherwise. Okay, and whether it was to be done, if it's done on B'mezid, okay, the punishment, of course, versus being done in B'shogeg, right? So that was where we sort of left off, trying to determine that issue. And the end of the previous Amud basically said there are situations where one could be over shogeg, but not punished with a chatas. And it gave two examples. According to Rabbi Akiva, it was in regards to tchum, and according to Rabbi Yossi, it was regarding to havara. Okay? So we pick up now on, as I say, on 154a, okay? Kaf Nun Daled Amud Aleph, the top of the Amud. Rav Zavid Matne Hachi. Rav Zavid taught it this way. Amar Rami Bar Chama. Rami Bar Chama explained, Hamechamer Achar Behema B'Shabbat, B'Shogeg. One who guides or directs a loaded animal, let's say, on Shabbat inadvertently, right, unwittingly, Eino Chayav Chatat, is not subject to being obligated to bring a chatas. B'mezid, if he does so wittingly, in other words, on purpose, deliberately, right, Chayav Skila, he is obligated and will be punished with stoning. Meitiv Rabba. Okay, so Rabba now challenges this with the following braita. Hamechalel et Shabbat b'davar shechayavin al shkigato chatat. One who desecrates the Sabbath regarding some act, okay, or something, right, with an offense, for example, in which it is would be subject unwittingly to a chatas, chayavin al zdono, okay, deliberately he is going to be punished with a result of skila. Ha'en chayavin al shkigato chatat. However, he says, if there is some act, offense, that for which by shgaga, unwittingly, one is not going to be required to bring a chatas, ein chayavin al zdono skila. One would not be punished or obligated as his punishment for a mazid act with stoning. And so the Gemara then raises a question. Mi katani ha'ein chayavin chuli? Is there anyone, any Tana, that teaches that if one commits an act where shogeg is chatas, mazid would not be skila? Hachi ka'amar. This is what he really means to say. The following. Davar shechayavin al shkigato chatat. Some act, some deed, okay, where one would be obligated to bring for an inadvertent, for an unwillingly act chatas. chayavin as dono skila, for an act that one does wittingly, okay, deliberately, then one is punished with stoning. V'yesh davar she'ein chayavin ashkegato chadat. Excuse me. And there are certain acts, certain things in which one would not be, as an unwitting act, obligated to bring a chatas, v'chayavin as dono skila, or doing it as a witting act, a deliberate act, would not be punished with stoning. Umaynihu, and what might it be? Okay, mechamer, it is directing or guiding a loaded donkey, let's say. Now, Rava, who raised this challenge, Achva the Rav Mari bar Rachel. Okay, Rava, who is the brother of Rav Mari bar Rachel, Va'amri la avuha the Rav Mari bar Rachel. And some think, or some want to say, he was really the father of Rav Mari bar Rachel. Lilishna Batra Kasha. Okay, this second explanation was problematic. Okay, in other words, the fact that they considered him the father. Okay, the Rav Achshare, the Rav Mari bar Rachel, because it was Rav who validated the status or appointed Rav Mari bar Rachel, Uminai Bapurse, and made him some kind of a official office holder, okay, to Bavel in Babylonia, maybe like a customs official. Dilma Tre Mari bar Rachel Havu, perhaps, says the Gemara, there were two individuals with the name of Mari bar Rachel, okay, and notice it's the use of the mother's name, okay. Hava matne la lahashma'ata mishmei the Rabbi Yochanan liftor. But, says the Gemara, here, okay, we see a discussion in Rabbi Yochanan's name that says that the person is exempt. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, says Rabbi Yochanan, Hamechamer achar behemto b'Shabbat patur miklum. Okay, that Rabbi Yochanan is saying one who leads, guides his behind his animal on Shabbat. Okay, in that situation, okay, he's not culpable at all, right? B'shogeg, okay, lo mechayev chatat, okay, if he does so unwittingly, he is not obligated with regards to a chatas offering. Why? Dehuksha kol haTorah kula la'avodah zarah, because his argument is that the Torah associated this love with an associated idea of avodah zarah, namely that one is only liable for actions that he himself performs, and therefore, b'mezid nami lo mechayev. Even if it was to be done deliberately, wittingly, he also would not be held accountable. Ditznan. Why? Because we have elsewhere a braita that teaches as follows: Hamechalel et Shabbat b'davar shechayavin ashkigato chatat. When one who desecrates the Sabbath, okay, regarding an item that for which one would be obligated as an unwitting act to bring a chatas, va'az dono skila, and also then for a witting act, a deliberate act, stoning. Here, ein chayavin ashkigato chatat. Here, however, since he would not be obligated for the unwitting act to bring a chatas, ein chayavin azdono skila. He also would not be held guilty for a deliberate act to be punished by stoning. Now, belav nami lo mechayev. And also, he argues further that even in regards to an example of a negative commandment, he also would not be held responsible, obligated. Dahavale lav shenitan lahazarat mitav beitin, because it has to be a lav, a prohibition, in which lav is usually given as a warning act, okay, for reminding us that that is a consequence or a result where the death penalty could be applied by a beit din. The kol lav shenitan lahazarat mitad beit din, and any kind of prohibition, right, lav, that is not given other than for a warning for death penalty by court, ein lokino lav. Okay, we do not indicate that the person would get malchus. Okay. Going on then to the next Talmud. Va'afilu laman da'amar loki. And even according to one who might say that we do give malchus in that kind of a situation. Okay, for example, he says, Lichtov Rachmana, lo ta'aseh kol melacha uvehemtecha. Let the Torah then spell out, okay, thou shalt not do any work nor your cattle. Okay? And he says, Ata lamali. Why then do we need the word you in the pasuk, right? Hu nihu the mechayev, only to tell us that it's the person himself when he works is chayev. Behemto lo mechayev, but his animal, okay, would not be obligated if the animal works. Okay? And we end that particular discussion. Okay, we now pick up again with our Mishnah. Remember, the Mishnah said, what is the person supposed to do on Friday afternoon when it gets dark and he has saddlebags of money or a pouch of money? If he can't give it to the Gentile, does he leave it on the donkey? And once he gets into the initial courtyard, and that's where we continue. Egia lechatzer hachitzona, if he reaches the outermost courtyard. Amar Rav Huna, says Rav Huna, Haita behemto tu'una klei zechuchit. Let's assume, says Rav Huna, that perhaps his animal is burdened carrying with objects made of glass. What does he do? Mevi karim ksatot. He has to bring pillows and mattresses, for example, umaniach tachteha, and he puts it down underneath the animal. Umatir hachavalim, and he unties the ropes that ties his bundles to the animal. Vehishkin, vahasakin noflin, and these bundles fall. Okay, and so the Gemara then raises the question, V'ha'anan tznan, but haven't we taught, notel et hakelim hanitlin b'Shabbat, right? That namely, he can remove the objects that may be handled on Shabbat, right? If that's the case, shouldn't the glassware be able to be handled? Okay. So the Gemara answers, Ki ka'amar Rav Huna, when Rav Huna was referring to certain glass objects, what was he referring to? Bekarne de umana. Okay, he was referring to the glass, let's call them pipettes, that the bloodletter uses, de lo chazyale. Okay, and in that case, they're not suitable for any other purpose. Okay, since he can't draw blood on Shabbat, and therefore, if they're not suitable for any other reason, they are considered muksa. V'ha kama vatel kli mehechano. But in that case, the Gemara challenges and says, but then aren't you nullifying the status of these objects from initially? How is that possible? Okay, and so the answer is b'shlife zutre. We're talking about small bags or small sacks. Okay? Meitive. But we'll challenge this, okay, with another example, right? In a braita. Haita behemto te'una tevel. Let's say the animal was laden down with tevel, va'ashashiot, or other slabs or chunks of glass. Matir techavalim. He unties the ropes. V'hasakin noflin. The bags, the bundles then fall. So the Gemara asks, Va'afal pi shemishtabarin, even though, excuse me, it's possible that they'll be broken. Okay? Hatam bekulsa. Okay? There we're talking about, when we say glass, we're talking about chunks of glass or slabs of glass, which is going to be used to be melted down, okay, ultimately to be then made into certain utensils. And the Gemara tells us, Daikanami, we can determine this from the exact language, okay, because it teaches Dumia de Tevel, because it is similar to Tevel, namely, Ma Tevel de lo chazile, since Tevel is not fit for him. In other words, he has to do something with the Tevel, take Truma, for example, in order for him to be able to benefit at all from the remaining grain. Hafhacha nami lo chazile. So here too, the other, namely the chunks of glass, are not suitable as is, but some further process must be done to them to make them suitable for use. So the Gemara asks, Umayi afal pisha mishtabrin, mahu detema. And then if that's the case, okay, what about the fact that they could be broken? Okay, so the Gemara answers, Lehefseid mu'at nami chashashu. Okay, perhaps it was such that the rabbis were also concerned even for a small loss of funds to the individual. Kamash Malan comes to teach us that that's not the case. Okay, our new Braita, Tanya, says this Braita, Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, Omer, he says as follows, Haita behemto tu'una shalif shel tfua. Okay, that the person's animal was loaded down, okay, with a large sack, a large bag of produce, of grain. Okay, maniach rosho tachteha. What does he do? He himself puts his head underneath the animal, umisalko l'tzad acher, and he removes or unties the load to the other side, okay? Vahu nofel me'alav. And therefore then, as a result, the package, the bundle, falls by itself. Chamuro shel Rabban Gamliel tells a story. The donkey of Rabban Gamliel, Haita te'una devash. It was loaded down with honey. V'lo ratzah leforka ad motzei Shabbat. And he did not want to unload the animal till Sabbath was over. Lemotzei Shabbat meta. And on Motzei Shabbos, the animal died. V'ha'anan tanan. But here, don't we teach notel kelim hanitalim, that our Mishnah said it's possible to take instruments, items that one can carry. So his answer says as follows. What happened? Kasha hidvi'aish, that the honey turned sour, it turned rancid, it spoiled. Hidvish l'mai chazi. So the question is, if it's spoiled honey, rancid honey, for what purpose was it suitable for? L'katita de gamle. It's beneficial still for the sores of camels. So the Gemara then says, a new statement, if that's the case, V'yatir chavalim v'yaplu sakim. So let him simply untie the bundles and let the bags fall. And so the answer the Gemara then gives is mitztaro ziki. Okay, what would happen in that the case is that the bags, okay, what they're being held in, since it's a liquid, that they're held in large gourds or things like that, they would burst. V'yavi karim v'ksatot v'yaniach tachtehen. So do the same thing we mentioned before with the glass objects by getting pillows and getting mattresses and putting them underneath the animal, underneath the objects. Okay. Metamfe ukmedvatel klime hechano. Rabban Gamliel, right, was hesitant to do that, because then it would soil these pillows and mattresses. And again, he would nullify their usable status originally. It would make them now muktzah. V'ha'ika tsar ba'alei chayim, asks the Gemara. But what about then the question of the poor animal, its status? All right, don't we have to be concerned about that? So the answer the Gemara gives then is kasavar tsar ba'alei chayim derabanan. He's of the opinion that discomfort to animals is only rabbinically prohibited. Okay. Now, we're going to come to a new episode, so to speak, in the Gemara. Okay. Since we were talking about animals and potential use of animals on Shabbat, the Gemara now tells us the following story in this same vein. Okay. Abai ashkachei leila Rava. Abai happened to find Rava one day. Deka meshafshef leila brei agaba dechamra. That he was sliding his child, his son, on the side of the donkey. Amarle, and he said to him, Ka mishtamei shmar ba'alei chayim. This is how the master is using an animal, okay, on Shabbat, okay, Amarle Tzadadin Hein, Utzadin Lo Gazru Baho Rabbanan. It's the side of the animal, excuse me, and the rabbis never made any decree in regards to the animal's sides. Minat Temra. So he asks, comes back, right? How do you know it? Ditnan, as he says, Matir Chavalim Bahasakin Naflim. Because we have that our Mishnah taught, one can untie the ropes and the bundles will simply fall by themselves. Mai, what are we talking about here? Love b'chavar golaki. Aren't we then talking about a situation where the bundles were perhaps tied by some sort of a saddlebag or a strap? The havu lahot stadim, that goes around the sides of the animal. Stadim lo gazru bahu rabbanan. But regarding the sides of the animals, okay, that the rabbis did not make a decree. Lo, no. B'chavar aglavki the lo havut stadi. No, we're talking about a situation where we're dealing with a kind of a strap, okay, that wrapped around the animal so that the load would be balanced, okay? And therefore, that's what they're referring to when they deal with the sides. Inami belichta, he says. If that's the case, okay, or we could say also that instead that the bundle was attached to a hook or a clasp or something like that. ATV. So what happens? An objection is raised from the following. Okay? So in other words, he still is challenging. Bai is still challenging him. Shtayim biyadi, he says, if Adam va'achat be'ilan, okay, someone here is putting up a sukkah, and two walls of the sukkah, okay, are made by a person, and okay, va'achat be'ilan, and one wall is provided by a tree. Okay? In other words, perhaps the trunk of the tree, perhaps more so the foliage hanging down from the tree, right? Kshera v'ein olim la biyomto. Okay. Now, this could be also that he built the sukkah somewhat like a tree house, okay, in the tree, right? It's valid, says the Gemara, but the Braita, but one cannot enter it on the festival, okay, on the holiday, all right? Okay, so this is so either the tree is the third wall or it's fastened to the tree, the sukkah is still valid. Okay? Mai lav dechak be'ilan. Aren't we saying here that what did he do is that he actually almost clasped it and pushed it, okay, into the tree, okay? Then, okay, is that what he's saying? Dahavu lahot stadin. But here we then have a situation that if he attached it to the side, he's using the side of the tree. Dahavu lahot stadin. Utstadin asurin. and using the side of the tree on Shabbat is forbidden. Okay? Lo, he says, no. The kfi'at le'ilan. No, rather what he did is he bent over the part of the tree and its branches so that the tree therefore could serve as a kind of wall. Va'anach sichuch eluya. And then he put schach, okay, other branches on top. The kemishamesh be'ilan. And that's how he utilized the tree. Ihachi, if that's the case, ema seifa. I would say, but look at the end of our text. Shalosh biyadei adam, 3 walls on the part of a person. Ve'achad be'ilan kshera, that here too, okay, 3 walls would be acceptable, right? And the other would be, okay, by the part of the tree. V'olim la biyom tov. And we say that one can enter this on a holiday. V'idi kfiya le'ilan. And if we say that he simply bent over the tree, amai olim la biyom tov. What's the possibility then that you would say that he can go into it on Yom Tov? The elamai. So what is it then? Stadin asurim. Do we say then that the sides of the tree are forbidden? Sof, amai olim la biyom tov. Ultimately then, why do you say that that you can go into it on Yom Tov? Elahatam b'gav aza parsabana. Okay, but what we're saying there, that it talks about the fact that it has very thick branches, thick foliage. Okay, that's what we're dealing with. The ilan gufei dofen ba'alma hu de shavua, and that therefore, okay, we can say that the tree itself is like considered almost like a wall, and it's equivalent to such a wall. Daikanami, and we can determine this also from the language, the katani zehaklau, because we see here that there's a general rule, kol ilel shayin tel ha'ilan v'yuchalel la'amod olim la biyom tov. Namely, wherever the sukkah can stand, if the tree was removed, okay, in that case, olim la biyom tov, one can enter it on Yom Tov. Shmamina. Indeed, we learned this. Okay. Now, still this argument between Rabbah and Abaye, okay, with Abaye now raising the following. Lema kitnai. Shall we say that this issue of stadin, of the sides, okay, or walls, but in this case sides, that it's a machloket tanaim, okay? Coming back now to the example of the sukkah, ein olim la biyom tov, okay? That some say one is not permitted to enter it on Yom Tov. Rabbi Shimon ben Eliezer, Omer, Mishum Rabbi Meir, in the name of Rabbi Meir, olim la biyom tov, that one can go onto it on Yom Tov. Mai lav bahak miflageh, isn't this what they're arguing about? The Mar Savart Stadin Asurim, that one master holds that sides are forbidden. Umar Savar Mutarin, and the other master holds that they're permitted. Amar Abaye, lo, no, says Abaye. The Kuli Almat Stadin Asurim, everybody is in agreement that sides are forbidden. Lahacha, but here they're arguing about the sides of sides. Okay? What they're arguing then about is the fact that can you put grooves, or can you put something up and then, okay, slide the side into that, okay? And as a result, okay, is the groove, the pole, okay, is that considered acceptable? Mar savar tzadei tzadin asurin, umar savar tzadei tzadin mutarin. One master holds that it is forbidden, and the other master holds it's permitted. Rava Amar. And so Rava, however, continues his argument and argues, Manda asar b'tzadin, the one who forbids regarding sides, asar nami b'tzadei tzadin, also forbids the sides of sides. Man deshari b'tzadei tzadin, the one who permits the sides of sides, shari nami b'tzadin, also permits the sides. So the Gemara now shows us another issue, another sage rather, that is going to challenge Rava's line of thinking. Eitive Rav Mesharshia l'Rava. Rav Yeshashia raises the following objection to Rava, and we see it's as follows. Na'atz, okay, yated ba'ilan. Let's say that he put a peg, or he put some sort of a stake into the tree. Okay? V'tala ba kalkala. And he hung from that peg a basket. Okay? Lamala me asarat tfachim. Higher than 10 tfachim. Okay? So he's intending to use this basket as an object to hold bread and other foodstuffs, perhaps for him to be able to make an Erev Tchumen, okay? Erev Chatzeros for Shabbat. Ein Eruvo Eruv. This is not considered a valid Eruv. Lamata me'asarat tfachim, below 10 tfachim, Eruvo Eruv. Then it would be a valid Eruv. So at that point, he has access to the foodstuffs. He doesn't have to eat it, excuse me, but he has to have access to it. Tama dina'atz yatei ba'ilan. Perhaps the reason is because he attached or put this stake, this peg, into the tree. Ha'lo na'atz. But if he didn't bang the peg or stake into the tree, afilu lemata me'asarat tfachim, even if it's lower than 10 tfachim, ein eruvo eruv, then it would not be considered a valid eruv. Vaha, he says, and here, hai tana, the ka'asar b'tzadin, and it must be because this Tana, again, forbids the use of sides, okay? Ukashare b'tzadei tzadin, and must permit the sides of sides, which seems to be opposite the view of Rav. Now, Amar Rav Papa, hacha bekalkala dechuka askina. Says here we're really talking about a kind of basket that has a very narrow opening, a very narrow mouth, he says. De bahade, de shakile le'eruv, okay, that when, okay, he is removing anything from the basket, okay, as part of his eruv, right? Kamenid leila ilan, that he actually shakes or moves the tree. Ukimeshamesh be'ilan gufei. And therefore, as a result, it's like he's making use of the tree directly. The hilchata, but the law is, tzadin asurim, that sides are forbidden. Tzadei tzdadim mutarim. Okay? But the sides of the sides are permitted. Okay? Amar Rav Ashi, and Rav Ashi then says, Hashta, excuse me. Now, the Amat Stadin Asurim, that you said that sides are forbidden, okay? Hai Darga de Madla. Okay, what in regards to, let's say, a kind of raised ladder, okay? Lo limche inish adikla, okay? That the person must not rest the ladder, okay, on the exact side of the tree, of the dekel, okay, of the palm tree, dahavula hotstadim, because that would be making use of the sides of the tree. Ela limche agavaze levar midikla, but he can rest the ladder, the elevated ladder, on, let's call it, pegs or stakes that are on the, against, that have been pounded into the tree, that are on the outside of the tree. The chisalik, and when the person then goes up on the tree, goes up in the ladder, I'm sorry, lo linich kare, okay, agavai, he cannot put his feet, okay, on these, okay, pegs, ela litnach akyamin, but rather he has to put his feet, be sure when he ascends the ladder, he has to be sure to put his feet on the rungs of the ladder and not on the pegs attached to the tree itself. Okay, so we'll stop there. Okay, and this next Mishnah, by the way, okay, again deals with more foodstuffs for animals. Okay, whether one can untie them, okay, and what kind of bundles they are, just tie in, okay. 2 to 3 different words are used here in this Mishnah and Gemara for the word for bundles of fodder, of straw, okay, or hay. And the question is whether they're tied with 1, 2 knots, 3 knots. That's one explanation. Can they be untied? Can one just untie it and lay it out before the animal? Or can you toss it? So another question is going to come up here with tircha. Okay, what's the effort that the person must do in order to feed these animals? And depending on the kind of feed that he uses, the soft feed, hard items, things like that. Okay, so we'll stop there and wish everybody a good Shabbos. Okay, and
Shabbos to you, Rabbi. Have a wonderful Shabbos to you, Rabbi.
We'll see everybody, God willing, Sunday morning at our usual 8:15 time.
Yes, Hashem.
Thank you. Good Shabbos.
Good
Shabbos.
Shabbos.